I want to take a second to talk about the config function and providers without going into too much detail because we'll create our own providers later, but we're going to be using the route provider quite extensively. So let's dive into it. So if I try and inject the route provider into my app controller, you'll see if I reload this, it'll say unknown provider, route provider, provider, meaning that it's looking for a provider with the word provider on the end. So this is actually unavailable because it's looking for a service being created by a provider. What that means is what you actually do is you inject route in here and it's going to find the route, so no error. It's going to find the route because it found route provider. Now if I were to try to inject route in here, you'll see that unknown provider route. So at this point in this phase of your application when it's configuring it, all you have are these providers, which are the factories which generate an instance of things like route is the service that comes from the route provider. So at this point, when you're configuring your app, you're basically saying, when I generate route, this is how I want it to appear. So if you were to try, for instance, you can actually access all this stuff you see in here from the route itself. So you could say route, routes, and then access it like this, and then try and paste in this guy. And that's totally legit. It's just that if I do that, you'll see it'll run fine. And so no errors were thrown. But what's going on is this is way too late in the process because the app controller, we need to reference the app controller so it can be initiated when you navigate to this URL. It has no idea that when you navigate to that URL that it wants to load the app controller. You can just see that it's just way too late. You can't define it in a controller in a service or something and expect it to do anything because the configuration needs to happen before you inject it into anything you want to use it in. So just a quick review, again, these providers are available in the config function. You can generate your own, we'll talk about that later, but in the config function, you're going to be injecting a provider, which will then, when you try and access the instance of it, like a route inside of a controller, then you can get things, a pre-configured instance based on what you do to configure it in here. So that's the basics of provider, and we're going to dive a lot more into route provider here next.